Hi class, this is the third part of Nation and Society. So we are looking again at civil society, okay? So let's look at this in some depth. So earlier we talked about what is civil society, how does it get its name? It's society that is allowed to engage in politics, but not challenge the existence of the state, right? We said if civil society challenges the state by war, we say it is a civil war, and then society, basically the country falls apart, right? The state falls apart. If society cannot be civil, then the state will fail. So that's why we have put so much emphasis in educating people to be civil within society, right? We hope that everyone will follow the social contracts and that they will serve the country and keep the peace. How does the state maintain sovereignty? Earlier in chapter 2, we looked at how the state basically governs over the population. And so Charles Tilly had mentioned that, oh, the state actually began as a group of thugs that was giving some kind of protection to a population. And that developed into a more organized form and resulting in the formation of the state, right, over time. So force and coercion were necessary in the early days. So Paul says a state is thus a set of institutions that seeks to wield the most force within a territory to establish order, right? We looked at this before. And then another group of scholars said, no, actually, the state actually governs by way of co-option. They maintain peace by educating people to be patriotic, right? So in that way, people don't try to destroy the state. We talked about that. We try to create a civil society, right? And so Antonio Gramsci is saying that states are actually rational actors. They view all options. If violence is used all the time, then even the most peaceful person will rise up and fight the state. And so violence is not the first option, but the last option. Socialization. So Benedict Anderson, we covered this, looked at imagined societies and basically looked at ways in which this diverse population is allowed to form this idea that they belong together. So we are inculcated into our national identity by way of these practices that make us feel like a nation. So of course the goal is to be civil, right? We keep saying that, socialization, so that we are civil. So how do we do that? So we see these symbols of a nation being uh, provided to us constantly by various sources. You hear that the motherland, the country is the motherland or the fatherland, and it's sacred. You hear that the Constitution is sacred. The values of the country are sacred. You hear through the educational system that you are about a democracy, your country is a democracy, or the political system, and you talk about unity. You hear about the flag and the national anthem as children, right? These things are easy to understand. When you hear the national anthem, you feel a certain kind of love for the country. All these emotions are invoked. Same when this beautiful large flag is flapping in the air, you feel this greatness in your heart that you are in this country, you feel very proud. The languages also help to bind people. When you speak similar languages or same languages, you can communicate with each other, and through that, you are forming this social relations, right? You also have stories and histories of the anti-colonial movement or independence movement. These are stories that get repeated throughout your childhood, and as you go through the years, you have holidays commemorating various of these events. You have particular food and clothing associated with events. So all of this is a reminder on a regular basis that you are part of a nation. So how to inculcate people that live in a territory to serve the state? So now you have this education system that told you that you are part of a nation. But how do you get people to serve, right? So you basically are creating this situation where people can serve through patriotism. Once you become a citizen, you also learn that you have certain rights, but also duties to the state, right? If a state asks residents to serve in the military, but does not guarantee them citizenship, it is also a strange thing. So you learn that the state is requiring certain kinds of service from the people, and then complications arise when you have problems after that point. Let's see, you have forming a nation. So after World War II, many countries became nations, right? They became states, rather. They became free, they became able to sovereign, or rather sovereign over their territory and population. Because you had a decline in European colonial powers and their administrations after World War II, the British and French were very badly defeated, or rather, they suffered a lot. They won the war, but they were destroyed by the war. So then Richard Nixon, basically in the 60s, predicted that the type of nationalism we'll see in the 60s and 70s would be ethno-linguistic movements. So he's talking about the politics of the time, which was happening in Pakistan. So it's about the breakup of Pakistan into Bangladesh and Pakistan. And the whole nationalist movement for the Bangladeshis or the Bengalis is based on language, which is Bangla. So Paul O'Neill also talks about it in page 60 about ethno-linguistic movements being the basis. So this is typical for countries which are very small, which have coherent ethnic, groups. So you don't have much ethnic diversity. People are speaking the same language. You can have this kind of situation. So when you have larger countries with diverse groups, but if these people cannot get along, then you see the linguistic breakups happening. So this is the situation in Pakistan, where, with Bangladesh being formed, Myanmar is in trouble right now, but Myanmar has been having sort of ethnic conflict for a long time. And we'll look at these things later. With larger countries, when you are diverse, you need something else. You're too big. You can't have, this kind of ethnic linguistic, because you can't, everybody doesn't speak English or everybody doesn't speak Spanish. Then what happens? You also don't have people following the same religions and things like that. So traditional things don't work. So in the US, you see liberalism, capitalism, Christianity. These are the big ideological things happening, right? People consider themselves to be liberals, mostly they believe in capitalism. There's this, sort of faith background as well. In Russia, you see language, communism, and these days capitalism. China, mainly language, communism, and I think capitalism, right? Most people speak the Chinese language, and so they have that in common. In India, I would say it's more tradition based out of Hinduism and other cultures like Islam. You also have capitalism. You also have this nationalist movement against the British. So that history also plays a big role. So let's see. So again, how do you form this allegiance to people who are from diverse backgrounds? You have all these symbols and ways of inculcating patriotism, but in the end, some type of public service or commitment to the nation is also required to create these feelings. So you see people serve in public office, they might be working in the government bureaucracy, doing various administrative jobs. They might be in the military, they might be your teachers, they might be doctors, scientists, other kinds of service workers, builders. So in various ways, people are committed to building the nation, right? So if anyone is watching Mr. Sunshine, you can add to the discussion because you'll see various ways in which some of the characters become part of the US system, right? US, um, okay. So let's look at this another time. So let's stop here for now and we will come back to this another time.